Hello everyone, and welcome to my very first video on YouTube. My name is Berit, and I want to talk about books. Since this is my very first video on the YouTube, I thought I'd give you a short introduction to who I am and what books I like, just to give you a basic impression of me, basically. I'm 29 years old, I'm German, but I live in Norway for work at the moment. And last year I got out of a very long reading slump. I think I had about 3 or 4 years where I hardly read just for myself, which is kind of ironic because I studied comparative literature. Oops. But I finally, over the last year, rediscovered my passion for books, and I also really discovered that I want to talk about books, and that's why I decided to just try and join this community. I'm not really sure what my reading taste is. I think I read mostly contemporary fiction. I do like fantasy, and I always have. I like science fiction, I think. I haven't read a lot of science fiction, but all the science fiction that I have read, I really liked. I also like a good dystopian novel every once in a while, but I also get enough of those very fast, so I don't read them very often. I also like mangas. I haven't read an awful lot of series, but every single series that I did read, I really enjoyed. And I would like to dive deeper into that medium. And I think the only genre that I tend to not enjoy as much is crime novels that follow a detective or that follow a policeman. I tend to find them boring, but I haven't read a lot of them either because I tended to find the ones that I read boring. So just to give you an impression of some of the books that I like, this is not a very thought through selection. This is basically really just to give you an idea and give you some examples of what I enjoyed reading. I think the book that I've read most often since I turned like 18, so in the last 11 years, was probably Fight Club. I tend to read this whenever I feel very annoyed by the world and by everyone, and I'm just like, go F yourself, everyone, then I almost always reread this book because it encapsulates that feeling very, very well for me. And I also find it really funny in places because the narrator is so, fucked up. I really like it. Another book that I really like in the fantasy genre is very, very standard, Lord of the Rings, which I have in this almost dangerously big edition. I think you could kill people with that. I really like this. I actually read it completely through for the first time last year, but boy did I love it. Another book that I really liked was Youth Without God by Audun von Horvath. This is a very short book that is in a way really scary. It was written, I think, in the end of the 1920s. It's a really good book. I would recommend it to basically to anyone, I think, probably. A crime-ish novel that I really enjoyed was The Godfather. And a funny book that I really liked was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think I've read this, I don't know how many times, but I think it's hilarious. Especially the chapter with the whale and the flower pot. And for classics, as an example, I really love Frankenstein. I think it's also a very approachable classic. I really like I really like the story, and I like how it's told and the levels of it, and It's very good. And I also really like The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. For some YA examples, I really enjoyed the Tales of the Otori series. I read the first 3. I think there are at least 4. But I read the first 3 and I really liked them, especially the first one. I'm a big fan of the first book. I really loved it because already as a child I was kind of into martial arts and kind of into samurai culture, and yeah, this book just fired that up. And I also really liked the, what's it called? Wind on Fire series, which I read when I was about 13, maybe. Another book that I really enjoyed was Battle Royale. I read that for the first time like 3 years ago, I think. I thought it was just a wild ride and it was a lot of fun, and it was like 600 pages of bloodbath. And I loved it, but I also like the movie, so. And I think as a last step in my introduction, I thought I'd mention what I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading 3 books, more or less. I mean, I'm hopping in between the books. I'm reading Mythos, I think it's pronounced, by Stephen Fry at the moment. I'm reading this very slowly. I started reading it in September, I think, and now it's March. But the thing is, I really enjoy this book, but I read it very slowly because I want to concentrate very much when I read it, because there are so many fascinating insights in this book. At least I think so, but I like Greek mythology anyways, and here he explains so many interesting things about language that we still have from ancient Greek, which I really love. This is why I read it so slowly. I think I have to digest a lot of it, and just to get over the fascination of one thing that I read before I can read on. And I usually don't have a lot of marks in books when I read, just for me. But here I'm kind of marking the most interesting and fascinating things that I discover. Yeah, so this is one of the books that I'm reading. I'm also reading at the moment 1984, because I found it in the library in German, and I thought, well, I've been wanting to read this, but I've recently just started, so I'm like 20 pages in, but I'm reading that at the moment. And I'm also reading the second part of Dune together with a friend, which is a lot of fun. So far I'm really enjoying it, but I think I will talk more about Dune at some other point. But this is what I'm reading now. So this is meant to give you a relatively short introduction to who I am, what I kind of like to read. And yeah, if you want to join me for discussing books and talking about books, please do. And we'll see how this thing goes. And anyways, thank you for watching, and maybe I'll see you in the next video. Bye.